Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday, August 14th, North Middlesex Council meeting. This time I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, Councillor Keogh sends his regrets. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, we do have one in, and that is Councillor Daigle on item 7.1. Our next item of business is the minutes of the previous meeting from July 17th and the special meeting from July 24th.
I'll move them both, your worship.
Moved by Councillor Irwin, seconded by Councillor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Delegations, we have North Middlesex Minor Ball coming about renaming the McGilvery. All right, do you just want to come up to the? Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, who's going to start here? Are you going to start with your ask here, please? And then we'll let Brandon fill in after.
Sure.
So, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brad McLeod. I'm the president of North Middlesex Minor Baseball. This is Jen Trudell. She's the treasurer. We have both been involved in minor ball. Probably I have been close to 10 years and Jen longer than me. The idea that we've had set by some of our parents and of the players and ourselves for the Lurie Diamond and McGilvery was to look at a possible name change or addition to the current McGilvery Memorial Park to call Skeeter Field, to name the Diamond Skeeter Field. Now, Lurie has had long history with baseball and fastball over the years, spanning 30 years. I remember going as a kid, watching men and the boys play fastball, the kids I went to school with. And same as Jen. She played ball there as well. Over the years, the Diamonds use little less and less, and we want to give some ownership back to fastball, bring fastball back, and give it to look at the girls' division for our minor ball and have the girls take over the Diamond for their home field. So similar to other fields like Exeter, they have Exeter Extreme Diamond. They're smaller diamonds, fastball diamonds, and this would be solely empowered for the girls teams from age 9, 11, 13, 15, or up to 17 if we get registration. The plan would be to use it 5 days a week, all week, and give almost like a home for the girls division, so they can call something theirs and something to play with all the time instead of worrying about playing with the boys' time and everything else. In terms of signage, we would not remove any of the current signs that are there. We would add a small sign at the top or the bottom. Minor ball will incur all cost for it, either through our own registration costs or through fundraising. We will ask municipality only for help, for assistance to put it up. Any of the signs that we get to install. The plan would be then now is a slight revision what's on the presentation. Leave the top sign the way it is and purchase width 8-foot sign, maybe a foot tall, and call it Skeeter Field. And in addition with that, looking at maybe purchasing some bigger signs for center field on the fence and putting it there and calling it Home of the Skeeters. Something basic, something easy, and something that the girls' teams, all ages, can look at and see that that's our diamond. Other than that, I think that's the big thing is we want to bring Lurie back to where North Middlesex, these diamonds here. These were more central in the Park Hill. They get a lot of use, a lot of spectators. We have a lot of people now starting to ask about Lurie. Is it available? Can we use it? So I think there's an opportunity there to revitalize it a little bit and start getting it back to the way it was 30 years ago. That's our hope anyway.
Excellent. Thank you. Brandon, do you want to add anything before I turn it to council?
No, I think that Brad did a great job summing up what they'd like to do. I think it's a great idea. I think it kind of gives some empowerment there behind the program and try and grow the fastball program back to what it once was.
Okay, thank you. I like the idea that you're leaving the Memorial Park sign there? Because there is a Remembrance Day service there at the park, as you know. Council, questions from council. Councillor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I have a couple questions. First of all, you mentioned that girls' fastball. Are you limiting it to girls' teams only?
No, we would like to use it for the fastball diamond, but we're also looking at incorporating the younger kids, the T-ball junior rookie. They're at the division or the age group where they're not in hardball yet, they're not in fastball yet. They're pretty much running in circles and chasing the balls and that kind of stuff. But it gives, with the 4 diamonds with Elsie Craig, the 2 in Park Hill and Lurie, this season we had 19 teams. We had over 220 kids registered. Diamond time is very limited. So using or revitalizing Lurie is a good opportunity to use this diamond 5 days a week, the same as we do with both Park Hill Diamonds and Elsie Craig. So we wanted to look at all age groups for the girls, and we want to look at 1 team for the T-ball and 1 team for junior rookie, which are 4 and 5 year olds and 6 and 7 year olds. And then we're starting them younger where we can, then when they get to the 8 and 9 years, then they can decide to go play the girls basketball or boys hardball. And then they just take their path, and down the road, maybe if we look at bringing back some boys basketball again. Like I played when I was a kid. I never played hardball, I played fastball. So it all depends on what the kids want moving forward.
Okay, well, thank you. I know the diamond was busy because all of our 6 kids played ball there right from the time they're on T-ball on up. So, and the diamond was busy every night, all night long. So I'd be happy to see it come back. I have one final question, and that is Skeeter Park. Can you explain the rationale for calling it Skeeter Park, and especially Greg Skeeter Thompson? What's his tie in with the name Skeeter?
Well, currently there is a small memorial there for Greg Skeeter Thompson. We wanted to improve on that a little bit, just in terms of in recognition from his years playing minor ball. And he played in Lurie for years on OBA teams with a lot of the high school kids when they had very strong teams. Now, the Skeeter, I don't know all the history. I know some of the history. That Skeeter goes back. The Skeeters go back over 30 years, back when the men's basketball were called the Skeeters. So it's involved with that. It's more the memory for Greg Thompson is just something that we want to put there. It's already there, but the big focus and priority is with the Skeeters. We kept the organization calling them the Skeeters because of the history and everything else. I thought it was because of the little insects we have all summer, but it's not. It's we want to focus on not bringing the Skeeters back, bringing the history of the Skeeters back to Lurie or back to North Middlesex. I tell a lot of the parents that want to go to Lurie, want to go to Elsie Craig, I say Lurie, North Middlesex or Park Hill, Elsie Craig, it's all North Middlesex. There's 4 diamonds. We're all there to play sports all summer, but we want to be able to use the diamond all summer. Like you said, bring it back to where it was, where parking lots were full, the lights were on, and ball was on every night of the week.
Okay, one final question, and I'll pass it over to my colleagues. Do you foresee any other expenses that would be incorporated as well in terms of fencing, lighting, dugouts, anything like that?
Actually, for the last couple of years, I've been working with Brandon in discussions with that. He's got, I know there was like a 10-year plan, everything's going with that. We don't want to deter anything from that moving forward. The good thing with minor ball or minor sports and organizations is we can use volunteer from the parents, and there are a lot of parents that are willing to volunteer, whether it's minor hockey, minor soccer, or minor baseball. So a lot of the costs can be done through fundraisers. The signs will be taken care of from our current account through registration and money that we've raised fundraisers this year. So there won't be, if there is an added cost with adding different signs or more signs to the diamond, it's the only thing, like I said, we'll be asking the municipality for is help his guys installing, putting it up.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? No other questions? So, no questions? So it sounds like you got a lot of support from the community. Is that?
Yes, one thing about a small town is there's nothing else to do except play organized sports.
Right. There's worse things they could be doing too. So we have a recommendation and a request from council. You're making a motion to support the request? And a second is Councillor Irwin. You're seconding that? In favor? Carrie, thank you. And go Skeeters, I guess. Have a good evening. Our next committee of adjustment, we need to adjourn our regular meeting and go to committee of adjustment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Okay, our first one is a consent application for B 2024 located at 35850 McGuire Road. Frank Dietrich. Ashley.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm just being promoted to panelist and then I'll share my screen. Are you able to give me the permissions to share my screen, please? Oh. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the subject actual application is regarding 35850 McGuire Road, owned by Frank Dietrich. The application is for consent to sever a residence surplus to a farm parcel. And the rezoning associated with it is to recognize the rural residential use of the severed parcel and to recognize the lot frontage as well. It will also rezone the retained farmland to prohibit the establishment of any new residential dwellings. The owners wishes to retain the farmland for cash cropping purposes and to dispose of the residents. They have provided supplementary information to confirm they do own 8 farm holdings under this particular name, which equals about 800 acres of land. 2 of these 8 farm holdings have existing dwellings on them, demonstrating that this particular residence is surplus to the needs of their operation. The subject lands are currently designated and zoned as agricultural, and are approximately 98 acres in size. The severed parcel will be approximately 1.2 acres in size with 46 meters of frontage along McGuire Road. And it does contain an existing 2-story single detached dwelling and is currently serviced with a private well and septic system. This particular severance is a little unique in that the well servicing the dwelling outlined in the green area is actually located on the parcel across the road. And slightly into the municipal road allowance. So as a condition of consent, we are asking that they install a new well that is strictly on the severed property. Staff are satisfied that the criteria of the provincial policy statement, the county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan are maintained with this proposed application for the reasons outlined in more detail in my report. And the recommended conditions of approval are relatively standard for a consent of this nature, including entering into a severance and development agreement, having a new 911 address assigned to the farmland portion, a road dedication from Mount Carmel Drive, a drain reapportionment, confirmation that the existing septic is on the severed lot and in good working order. And then unique to the severance, as I mentioned, is that a new well will have to be installed. So staff are recommending that the consent be granted with the conditions outlined in my report. And I'm here if you have any questions.
All right, at this time, there's no written, is there any comments from the public on this application? Seeing none. Council, any questions? Councillor Nerda.
Ashley, can you show on the map where the existing well is?
It's kind of tough to see, but it's generally like over in this area, I believe.
Yeah.
Whoops. Sorry, that's not my mouse. Down here. So historically, both properties were owned by the same family, and the dwelling is built around the 1800s. So that's potentially why the well was put there. But yeah, we would really like to correct it with the severance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, we have a recommendation in front of you. Councillor Daigle, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. So we have to adjourn that meeting and go to the Committee of Adjustment adjourn and go into regular meeting, including public. Counselor Irwin, Counselor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next one is for the zoning bylaw amendment. Go ahead,
Perfect.
Ashley.
Thank you. So this is the associated zoning that we typically require as a condition of a surplus farm dwelling severance. Being there's been some provincial changes regarding fee refunds and timelines implemented, we are able to bring these together again instead of doing them as the severance report, waiting for the approval and then bringing the zoning back later. So I am recommending that council receives my report for information and considers passing a bylaw in principle with the first and second reading this evening. And then once the reference plan is deposited, we will bring the bylaw back for a third and final reading. This will save the applicant approximately 2 weeks' time.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Once again, I have to ask if there's any comment from the public. Seeing none. Questions from council on this? I will say it's nice to see them both being able to brought back to the same meeting. Moved once again by Counselor Daigle, seconded by Counselor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next one is 6.2, and that's a zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 18/2024 at 3900 Elginfield Road, Park Hill Meets. Would you like to come up? How are you even? You're welcome to.
Hi, everyone.
Good, good. How are you? Go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you. So this report is for a renewal of the existing temporary use bylaw for Park Hill Meets. As council is aware, the owner is currently in the process of constructing a new facility. And in the interim, the business required a storage container and a mobile office trailer on the front of their existing building to accommodate additional employees and business growth. The original temporary use zoning bylaw was passed for a 3-year period, which expired in 2022. An additional 2-year period was sought. Meaning that this particular bylaw will expire September 7th, 2024 if it's not renewed. So staff note that the site plan control process has been completed and an agreement has been registered on title of the lands and all required securities have been submitted as well. However, the estimated construction completion is spring 2025. So in the interim, the existing storage container and mobile office trailer require a temporary use extension. No comments or concerns were noted by the circulated agencies or members of the public, and staff are of the opinion that the proposed renewal is in conformity with the applicable policy. We are supportive of a renewal for a 1-year period or until the new facility is substantially complete, whichever comes sooner. So we have prepared a bylaw for council's consideration and we are recommending it be approved.
Thank you, Ashley. Yes, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
Just thank you so much. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Took us so much time, but we are in the process now. So thank you.
Okay, any comments from the public on this application? Seeing none? Questions, comments from? Moved by Counselor Irwin, seconded by Counselor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Yes, sir. I just want to say, I remember meeting with you and when you put those trailers in there and you talked about what your vision was. And I mentioned this at the groundbreaking, but to see it come to fruition, that's excellent. Yeah, you don't have to tell me. I understand. But congratulations, and I look forward to watching the construction as it goes. Thank you, yes, sir. That's your last one, isn't it? Next, the department reports, a 7.1 report from the planner on this, and I believe we have
It's me.
I'm just waiting.
Oh.
I'm just giving him a chance to, all right, Abby, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. So staff have received correspondence, which is appended to the report, with respect to a lack of policy and regulatory direction in local planning documents relating to additional residential units. My report provides council with an overview of relevant legislation and policy pertaining to additional residential units and outlines 2 options which would enable the municipality to incorporate policies and regulations into local planning documents. So the recommendation that I have included in my report is that council receive this report for information and that council select option 1 being to update the policies as part of the North Middlesex official plan review. And I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, Counselor Irwin.
Thank you, your worship. And I did have an opportunity to chat with the planner prior to the meeting, but I'm going to ask the questions in public session here. And one of my issues is timing. So between option 1 and option 2, what is the time difference in seeing the movement of additional residential units coming forward?
Thank you for your question, and through the mayor. That's a little bit of a difficult question to answer at this time, given the lack of a provincial decision on the proposed provincial planning statement. Ideally, we would like to incorporate those changes into the official plan that I will be bringing forward as part of the official plan review. As for a municipally initiated housekeeping amendment, I would say it would take between 3 months minimum to a maximum of 6 months. And that would include a county decision on the document as well.
Okay, do you have a follow-up?
I do, your worship, and just clarify the answer and then a follow-up question. So official plan review is 12 to 18 months away from being finalized, and option 2 is 60 to 180 days. So about a difference of a year roughly.
Yes, yes.
On my follow-up question. So my understanding is additional residential units currently legislated for fully serviced settlement areas. So Elsa Craig, Nairn, and Park Hill can have them as of right. And this deals with rural areas that have either wells or septic.
Yes, that's correct. So the Planning Act currently contains some provisions that essentially state that any official plan policy or zoning bylaw regulation that doesn't meet the exact wording of the act is in no force and effect, which is how they're permitted as of right on full services. As for anything outside of fully serviced settlement areas, it's kind of up to each municipality how they choose to allow for as well as regulate additional residential units. I would note for council's information that the draft provincial planning statement does contain policy direction as well as some development criteria that speak to the development of ARUs in prime agricultural areas. But again, we don't have a decision on that document at this time. So it's a little difficult for me to give any kind of exact answer in that regard because I don't have a crystal ball. So, yeah.
All right, any other questions? Councillor Knellson?
I think you may have answered my question to Councillor Irwin here, but I'm not sure. And my question was specific to rural septic systems. If they have additional residential units on a rural property, what would the restrictions or what would the requirements be for the rural septic system? Would it have to be upgraded? Would it have to be inspected? Well, what's the policy?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So that would depend on like any site specific details for the property. Like some septic systems may be able to accommodate an additional residential unit, whereas some may be in a state of disrepair where building would likely recommend that they upgrade the system. There may be situations whereby a landowner is required to have an additional septic system installed. It's really would be determined on a case-by-case basis and just dependent on the conditions existing on the site.
And again, it may be a municipal question, but again, water connections to the water line, I guess that would be a separate entity as well. Now, would that be a planning objective or would that be a municipal responsibility?
We would require that they be connected to water and.
Yes, but separate from the main unit or a separate connection is my question.
Oh, okay, I understand. It would depend. Generally building, they prefer to see people co-locate services, but again, if that wasn't feasible, then they may have to have a separate connection.
And so if there was an additional residential unit on a rural property, can it be sold to the person that's occupying it, or would it have to be retained ownership of the person who owns the property in general?
So it would have to be retained ownership of the person who owns the property in general. We would contain policy direction in the official plan that wouldn't allow for people to sever them. which aligns with some of the proposed changes in the provincial planning statement relating to surplus farm dwellings and
I-
a demonstration of farm
I have
consolidation.
one final question, and that relates to some of the things that are going on in the larger cities right now. And that has to do with tenants being occupying and whatnot and rooming houses specifically. So if we have investors come into our community to buy some of the larger, older Victorian style homes, and they want to convert them into additional residential units, could they be rooming houses? That there's no limit as to how many people could occupy the premises.
So thank you for your question. Additional residential units are capped at a maximum of like 2 units per property. So there would be a primary dwelling and then 2 additional residential units. In terms of like how that would play out in like an existing dwelling, it's very much up to the owner. You can have one detached ARU. I don't necessarily know that that would be able to be used for something like a group home or a lodging house, just given the difference in definitions. But it is a little bit of a gray area.
My argument would be that the additional residential unit requires a bathroom, a kitchen, and then of course bedrooms. But anyone can occupy those bedrooms. There could be a larger number of people occupying one residential unit. Are there any tools that municipality may have at its disposal to limit the option of limiting what could be perceived to be a rooming house?
So limiting the number of occupants within any given
Yes,
dwelling.
yes. I mean, of course, you have families. I get that. But we're talking rooming houses specifically.
Yes, so that would be a little bit outside of the scope of land use planning in terms of limiting how many people can live on any given property. Yeah, other larger cities are certainly looking into bylaws that speak to these types of land uses because they are popping up more and more. And that is something that staff here could certainly look
Okay.
into as part of the work on this.
You've been very helpful. Thank you so much.
Councillor Irwin, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, just to clarify my colleague's last question regarding potential rooming houses for ARUs. That's regardless of whether it's the rural ARUs mentioned in this report or the current ones that are as of right in settlement areas. The question applies equally. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions at this time. I would make a comment that some of us who've been on council long enough remember cleaning up some of these multiple dwellings on farms and how hard it was to do some of those. And now we're going right back there, but it's just a change of times, I guess. So if there's no other questions, we have a recommendation in front of it to receive for information, but also option 1, update policies as part of the North Middlesex official plan review. Moved by Councillor Knellson, second by Councillor Nerda. Question?
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
motion? Thank you, Worship. I'm actually in favor of option 2. Because I know we have a dearth of rental spaces in our community. We're already offering, as of right, ARUs in our settlement areas of Nairn, Ailsa Craig, and Park Hill. I think we should extend the same right, and it sounds like there's a time difference of a year if we go with option 1 over 2. And I know we can't crystal ball, as the planner said, but at this moment in time, it looks like the provincial policy statement is going in that direction anyways. So why don't we go there now? So I'm against the motion because I'm for option 2 for those reasons.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on it? We have a motion on the floor to go with option 1. In favor? 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1 opposed. Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Our next item, thanks, Abby. We'll get Councillor Daigle back up to the table. And our next it's our fire chief. Greg, are you coming up? It's for the report from Director of Fire and Emergency Services, and that's on the fire protection agreement for Lucan Badal.
Your worship, members of council, what you have before you is a recommendation to extend our agreement with Lucan Badal Fire Department to cover a portion of North Middlesex that is more quickly accessed by the Lucan Badal station. Do you have any questions?
Questions on this? Counselor Canelson?
I didn't have my hand up yet.
Yes, you did. You were throwing it up there.
I have two questions, Greg. The first one is, as compared to the agreement we have with Lambton Shores, how many properties are covered by this agreement? Do you know?
Approximately 100.
My second question is, and look through the agreement per se, I didn't see anything in there for a rate for the trucks as we do with Lambton Shores. Is there a rate for trucks?
No, sir.
That's a much better agreement than we have then.
It is what it is.
No, it is a better agreement. Would you not agree?
I don't think it's fair to compare the two, and I know we've had a great lasting relationship with the Lucan Biddulph area as neighbors, and so the one thing that did come out of this, and I congratulate our CAO as well, they did come with a 3-year agreement, and it got extended to 5 years with the same financial costs. So kudos to both of you for getting that done. And is there any other questions from council? We have a recommendation in front of us. Counselor Daigle, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you.
Greg. That was an easy one. I'm not sure how you got away that easy. Our next one is a report from Manager of Public Works, Brandon McLeod. Oh, jeez. Sorry. Hey, Brandon, it moved on me. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Brandon.
Through your worship, this report is a change to speed limit on Lurie Road in an urban area of Mount Carmel from 80 kilometers per hour to 50 kilometers per hour. There is a buffer zone between the 80 and 50. The buffer zone speed limit is 60. Jade and I are available for any questions now.
Questions? Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, worship. Because this is a shared road there with Huron County, do they have to get an agreement from them too, from South Huron to agree to this?
Through your worship, no, we're just matching the speed limit to South Huron already. On their side, it's 50, and through Mount Carmel, I'm pretty certain it's 50 already. So we're just matching that to keep it consistent for everybody.
Councilor Irwin.
Nothing on the report, your worship, but I want to recognize the Manager of Public Works for speeding, and thank you for being here.
Your worship, thank you very much.
Councilor Canelson.
I do have a question. Thank you. And it may not be relative to this particular bylaw, but as I mentioned to you earlier today, are you considering implementing a bylaw to introduce half load limits for some of our paved roads that are taking such a beating in the spring from all those heavy construction equipment vehicles that are utilizing them?
Through your worship, that is something I can look into. Right now, there is not looking like doing a report on it, but we can look at it and come back to council.
Good.
That's wished.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Okay, so on this, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councilor Irwin, second by Councilor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Brandon. Our next item is a report from Infrastructure and Operations, and that on the RFP and contract award for the Ellis Craig inflow and infiltration study.
Thank you, your worship. Through you, the purpose of this report is to award an engineering project to BM Ross and Associates Limited for the Ellis Craig inflow and infiltration study. The aim of this study is to identify sources of inflow and infiltration, also called I&I, assess their impacts on the sanitary sewer system, and recommend cost-effective solutions to address the issues. Council may recall that funds were approved for this project through the 2024 capital budget, and a budget of $100,000 was approved. The issue of inflow and infiltration in Ellis Craig collection system has become especially apparent through the design of the William Street pumping station upgrade project. And there appears to be an issue with excessive stormwater and or groundwater entering the sanitary sewer system, leading to several problems such as reduced capacity in the sanitary system, sanitary sewer overflows into the Osawa River, and increased costs for pumping and treating the wastewater. So staff issued a request for proposals in July, and 3 submissions were received from engineering consultants. Staff evaluated the proposals and are recommending that the project be awarded to BM Ross and Associates Limited at a total cost of $101,524.
Questions from council? Councillor Irwin.
Just one question, your worship, through you. As part of the work, will we get a sense from the report on how much capacity will be freed up if we were to move ahead with this endeavor and the findings?
Through your worship, yes, that's something we could evaluate through that, based on the recommended remedial measures.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Hodges.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. To Jaden, just how long do you think this study will take to complete? Or this,
Through the mayor, it's going to be approximately 8 months to complete the study. A portion of the work does typically, it's best to do it in the spring when there's wet weather flows, because we're doing flow monitoring within the system. So approximately 8 months for everything.
Any other questions? And this was, as you mentioned, this was a budgeted item that was at $100,000, right? The budget? Okay. Sure. Moved by, yes? Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are you doing the drainage reports as well? Okay. Drainage report, the first one is the Prance drain maintenance. Oh, you want to do that one first? Okay, we'll do that. All right, sorry, I missed that. The roads bylaw.
Thank you, your worship. Through you, this proposed roads bylaw attached to the agenda as bylaw 66 of 2024 has been developed with assistance from Middlesex County's legal department and has been reviewed in detail through the municipality's policy committee. The municipality currently does not have a roads bylaw, so the proposed bylaw helps the municipality have a formal legal framework for regulation of our roadways. The bylaw addresses several matters, including but not limited to entrance permits, work permits, oversized vehicle permits. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions from council on this? No questions? Pardon me? Yeah, no questions on this report. We have a recommendation in front of us. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we'll go to drainage reports. And that is Prance drain maintenance RFP results is the first one. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, thank you. I'll be doing these reports as Joanne's off this week. So the first report is a request for proposals that was issued for municipal drain maintenance on the Prance drain. Staff issued the request for proposals and got 4 bids. The low bidder was C. Robert Robinson Contracting Limited. And the proposed motion is that council receives this report and directs staff to award the request for proposals contract MD 08-2024 for the Prance drain maintenance to C. Robert Robinson Contracting Limited in the amount of $36,721, excluding HST.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Nelson.
thank you, Mayor Rob. Jaden, is this the drain that goes all the way to the Tri-County Bridge and goes through that property that we were talking about, Huey Dietrich's property and Donatello's property? Did this drain go through their properties? I see his name on the map. I'm just asking.
Through the mayor, I'm not exactly sure of the furthest downstream limits. I know the Prance drain is very long, but just looking at the attachments, does go past Grand Bend Road or County Road 81 and McGillivray Drive, and does extend westerly along Mark Settlement Drive. I'm just not sure of the exact western limits there.
If I look at the last diagram, the very bottom one, there's a blue line that goes right to the Osawa River, crosses Hagmeyer Road, which is the area that we were discussing previously. Because there's reference made to the Canada Company drain as well, but I see that that's further north there. I guess my question is, if this cleanout will have any impact on the flooding that's occurring there during heavy rains? Or is that an answer you can provide?
Through your worship, I may need to follow up with you on that one if that's okay with you.
Okay, that'd be fine. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, if we could just send a follow-up to everyone, will. Sounds good. All right, any other questions on this? We have a recommendation in front of us. What's your wish? Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. The next one's the Shepherd's Drain, and that is the request for drain major improvement.
Through your worship, yeah, just two reports here to appoint our engineer for these municipal drain projects. So the first one being the Scapers Drain. I'll just read the proposed motion that council receive the notice of request for drain major improvement for the Scapers Drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act, and that council appoints R. Dobbin Engineering Inc. as engineer to the project.
You want to do them both at the same time?
Sure, gladly. The second drain report to appoint the engineer is for the Walden Horde Drain, and the recommended motion is that council receive the notice of request for drain major improvement for the Walden Horde Drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act, and that council appoints R. Dobbin Engineering Inc. as engineer to the project.
Is there any questions on either of those? If not, we could use a motion for both. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jaden. Next, we have committee reports, Lake Huron Primary, ABCA,
No meeting till September.
Blue Water Recycling, that's Councillor Keogh. I believe the July update is in the minutes, is it not? Economic Development,
We have our next meeting August 21st.
Local School Advisory, nothing to report. Rec Committee. Okay. Policy Review Committee, we have two policies that are in here. Are you coming forward on this one? Okay. Okay. So the first one is the Commissioner of Oath and Travel Allowance.
Apologize, your worship. The policy before you, there was just an amendment to an existing policy that was in place already to deal with identification required for commissioners' oaths. It's really something that was amendment done by our clerk to deal with current situations and the types of documentation that we will commission and we will not. So it's just keeping in line with current legislation and what best practices are.
Any questions on that? Go ahead, Councillor Nelson.
My question relates to the car allowance, the travel allowance. Is a portion of this policy, is it correct? Overtime's next. Overtime's next. They're both in this one policy, are they not?
They should be separate and I know they're listed the same. So let me just, if I may, your worship, let me just scroll down.
Yep.
Your worship, if I can jump in here.
Go ahead.
There are two separate policies that are being considered at the same time. So we can speak to the Commissioner Oath one and then we'll speak to the other, like a travel and car allowance policy, and then maybe a resolution afterwards.
So are we making a motion for both or are we one at a time?
Through your worship, the presented resolution is both.
Okay, then I have a question on the travel allowance. If I may?
Yeah, just a second.
I just thought, your worship, I maybe speak to it first, if that's okay with the councillor.
Go ahead.
So then the next one is coming forward to council, as it was an existing policy that after several years of usage, it's kind of like that some of the hopes and expectations of this policy just were not appropriate. Seeing as we're a rural municipality without a for instance, having a rental car agency close by. It was actually more expensive for staff to have to rent a vehicle and often doing it the day before and keeping it for an extra day in order to get it back to the rental companies. And the cost savings was not being realized. We felt it appropriate to use a car rental agency when it is appropriate for the staff member, but not making it a requirement. And I know myself, it's very awkward. And I know I'm talking with some of our senior staff that have gone through the process of rental. They go through the process of trying to get one, and then it turns out to not end up being any less expensive. The other part of it was to do with rail travel. I know that going to Roma recently, that some staff did utilize the train to go there, and it was felt to be very advantageous to use the business class as it was giving us opportunities to collaborate with other members of the other municipalities who also utilize that. Also, it gave staff an opportunity to relax during that period before and after going to the conference, and reduced actually the cost of the food allowance because it was served on the train. So it kind of allowed us to not spend more money on food and a little bit more on the train. It kind of equaled out. So there's a couple of things. It's just based on past practices, what's been working, what hasn't, and just clarifying it so that we can actually follow something that maybe makes a little bit more sense.
Okay, now you had a question, Councilor Nelson?
I do. I reviewed the travel allowance portion of it, and there's been some changes, some verbal changes. I was specifically looking for the rate for kilometer, and I didn't see it. Do we know what it is?
It's the CRA rate.
Yes.
It's established, and at this moment, I'm not certain of that. I can certainly see if, pardon me? I believe it is. I thought it was 68 or 69, but
I thought it was 61, yeah.
Didn't want to quote that without knowing for sure.
I don't hear which one was. What is it?
We're just checking for you, sir. Just one
Bill's
moment.
got it on his phone right now.
First 5,000 kilometers, it's 70 cents, and then additional kilometers is 64 cents.
Okay. Would that not be included here in this portion of the policy or not?
No, because it would it changes year to year as rates change. So we just match that, whatever it is at the given time.
Okay. My other question is, if staff are going to meetings and leaving the municipality, are they encouraged to utilize any of the municipal vehicles that may be available?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question on that. So I thought we used the county rate, correct, on our mileage? No? Okay. I believe, thought it was, and it was a little bit less than that. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on this policy? No other questions. We have a recommendation, and that is on travel in car. Counselor Daigle, seconder. Counselor Nerda, in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the next one's the compensation management overtime at the meetings. That
Hey, your worship and members of council, this is an existing policy. It is mainly just a housekeeping item with respect to the most recent title changes with the organizational review that was done recently to reflect the proper titles, as well as add the position again through the org review of the deputy treasurer position, as well as recognizing the change in hours of work for the drainage superintendent. So there is a motion before you that the report be received with the proposed changes to reflect these changes and for the titles, as well as the updated hours of work for the drainage superintendent.
okay, thank you. So questions, Councilor Canellis?
Again, are we doing both parts of it now, or are we breaking it up into two?
It's all one policy.
It's one policy.
Okay, because I have a question on the second part of it, and that is the compensation part of it. And that is, first of all, how many hours can be banked at any given time?
So the non-union staff that are not part of the senior management team can bank up to, if they're a 35-hour week, they can bank up to 35, or if they're 40, up to 40 max
Okay,
at any given time.
okay. And I think it's also in this report where we talk about attending council meetings and whether you get 1 or 2 weeks off. Is this part of this report?
That is part of this report, but not really part of what we're talking.
Okay,
about tonight.
but I do have a question on that as well. And I guess my question for that would be directed at the CAO. And so my question on that would be, given that the 2 weeks is approximately 4% in lieu of pay, would that be included in the next market analysis when we do the staff wages?
Yes, anytime that we do a market analysis, we take into account the benefits, just to compare apples to apples with all that's offered through the municipal compensation.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on this? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us. Counselor Daigle, seconded by Counselor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we have to pass the minutes as well. No, we don't have to. Okay, thank you. Fire committee? Nothing. Okay. Budget committee, nothing. Community development fund, nothing. Aqua client advisory board. Middlesex County OPP.
Thank you, Mayor, Your Worship. Basically nothing. They're still trying to get together, added insurance for all board members, and I've been asking some questions why, but haven't got a lot of answers back. But hopefully we have our first meeting in September.
Okay. Thank you. Correspondence, Town of Caledon, water testing services. Counselor Irwin?
I'd like to support that letter, Your Worship, for water testing for rural property owners.
Seconder. Counselor Canellis. Any discussion on it? In favor? Carried. Town of Plimpton, Wyoming, underserviced cellular communications in rural areas. Receive and file. London, Middlesex London Health Unit. I won't say healthy unit, health unit. The July update. Any questions on that? Seeing none, other business. I think Brandon, you have something.
So Mayor Ott, members of council, as you'll recall at the last meeting, I was to bring a report outlining our programming options to this council meeting. Currently, I'm waiting on a couple businesses to try and get pricing on what it would look like for them to offer programming on our behalf. I've built the report on what it would look like if we ran it in-house, but I do want to have that other side of it to present to council, and I've been waiting for just on a couple things. So that's why the report's not there. So you will see that next meeting. Just if anyone's curious on where we're at currently, all the volunteers who run the current programs that we offer for free have accepted to become municipal volunteers. They're all willing to do that. So those programs will continue. And then in terms of the child and youth programming and that side of it, I'm just looking to have the other side of the report so that we have all our options in front of us in September.
Okay, so in the meantime, though, our programs are continuing.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for Brandon on that? Seeing none, any other business? Counselor Canellis and then Counselor Irwin.
Yes, seeing that Estelle is still here, I don't see any place where we can ask for accounts, but I do have a question on accounts if I may.
Yes. We do have Estelle with us, right? You can hear us, Estelle? Estelle, can you hear us?
Maybe we can't hear her.
She's
She's on mute, I believe.
Mhm.
I believe you're on mute. You have a question. Okay, so go ahead. And if we have to get an answer for you, we will.
Well, and just reviewing the accounts quickly, because we got to quite late, I didn't finish reviewing them, but I do notice that there's been a number of RAWP refunds recently. I'd just like some clarification on the reason for that.
RA. Oh,
Okay, Jaden?
Thank you, through your worship. RAWP stands for Road Allowance Work Permit. So these are returning these security deposits after work is done and we've inspected that the municipal properties or boulevards are put back in proper condition. So it's just returning those security deposits.
I have a follow-up question for you as well. And I was driving down Main Street the other day and I'd actually talked to the guys from Dufferin. They were expecting the pavement, whatever. However, that was not my question. My question is, when the trees are ripped out on Main Street, the residents were told that they could get a tree, be planted on their property after the project is done. When will that take place?
Through your worship, it's not off our radar. The project still is in the warranty phase with Breex, and there is some ongoing deficiencies that we want to see addressed. So I think once we're clear of that process and the project has reached final completion, we'll be engaging with the residents and working with them to replant trees. When that will be, it'll likely be spring or fall next year.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, Worship, through you, and I've had the opportunity to discuss this inquiry with the Director of Infrastructure and the CEO, and I think even yourself. Increasing concerns and ongoing concerns around the high speed on Queen Street in Elsa Craig, both north and south of Main Street. And I would like to investigate the possibility of taking all of Queen Street and turning it into a community safety zone, doubling the fines of speeders and lowering the speed limit to 40 kilometers an hour. Especially important because, as you know, Queen Street is the gathering place for all the school children for the buses. And there's a real concern around young children as well, although we are trying to talk about that in a different manner. So I'll just leave that open for discussion if I can for right now, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So we'll get an answer to that. One comment I want to make to your is that our two busiest roads in Elsa Craig are where all the kids are picked up, Queen Street and Main Street. There's large stops there and we know of the truck traffic there. So, and that is a different situation, but so you're asking who's going to speak to the council? Jaden?
Thank you, through your worship. Would certainly be happy to bring back a report to council on this with more information. I just note, as council is likely aware, Queen Street south of Main Street is a county road. And then north of Main Street is a municipal road. So that's just one thing to consider. We may need to engage and consult with the county on this as well, it being under their jurisdiction. But certainly I'd be happy to bring back a report to council with information about possibility of making this a community safety zone and what that process looks like.
Okay. One comment I would make to that, on the county road portion, I would like staff to talk to county staff about the entrance coming in on Queen Street South on Petty. It goes from 80 right to 50. There's no 70 in between. I'd like to see, I mean, not way out, but a 70 to let people know it's going down. That is missing. It's the only place going into town that's missing. And maybe we keep that straightened out too. I'll talk to Chris Trainee as well, but I would ask that maybe you could do it through channels. Any other business? Go ahead, Alan.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to Councillor Daigle. I needed clarification on a resolution earlier in the meeting. And I'm going to read the resolution to him and I'm going to see if that's what he meant when he passed it. This is regarding the North Middlesex minor baseball. My resolution is that council approves the renaming of the baseball diamond and that signage be approved and mounted by the municipality at the discretion of the Director of Community Services. Was that your resolution? Thank you.
Okay. All right. No other business? Just say, I want to mention congratulations to the Park Hill Fair board, the volunteers and all that organization that made that happen. And I know that it cost Councillor Nerda and I a few dollars to buy pie at the Friday night, but I want to congratulate them for the putting on the event. Again, it was another good event. The demolition derby is, as usual, was packed. And so kudos to everyone who worked on that. All right. Deferred items. I don't think we're speaking to any here tonight. Communication, including county council. Is there questions on the council? Seeing none. Reading of the bylaws.
Thank you, Worship. that bylaws 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71 of 2024 be read first and second time.
Counselor Daigle, Counselor Nerda, all in favor? Carried.
That bylaws 38, 49, 66, 67, 69, 70, and 71 of 2024 be read third and final time.
Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Counselor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. At this time, we're looking for a motion to go into closed. And it is to receive information under the following exceptions. Section 239, 2, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, the minutes, and section 239, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Also, under section 239, labor relations and employee negotiations. Can I have a mover? Counselor Nerda, seconder, Counselor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Let's just wait for a minute and then we'll just take a couple of minute break and